Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Cousin
Connection
Podcast.
We're really getting good at that.
We are. My name is Sara.
My name's Amir.
And thank you for stopping by and listening us today.
This is episode number 8.
It is.
Is it?
Yeah, it is.
Hey, see, I got it right this week.
Finally got it right.
Yeah, let me turn myself down. I'm loud as hell on this thing. Okay. So, I guess you were introing. Sorry.
That's okay. You
just
can.
took over there
It's
with my male privileges. Just
wow.
showing out there. Just
Oh, you're really going to take it there. Okay. Well, I was just going to say we are so excited to intro this topic. It is part 2 of the Relationship Talks series. This episode, we have some special guests for the first time.
Yeah, we have a couple people we're going to be bringing on to through a Zoom convo. We also have one guest who's live here. You've already, actually, no, you haven't heard his voice unless you were listening to the Instagram live we had last week.
Yeah.
But we're going to have another guest on here. I don't know if we should intro them now or we should just wait until we actually get them all on here. We should wait till we get them all on here.
Yeah, I think we should wait till we get them all on here. But we, if you guys remember, if you're listening to this, a week ago, I posted on our Instagram page asking if you guys had any questions for our special guests. And we got a lot of them, a lot of really good questions. So I'm excited to, have that discussion with everyone. Yeah.
And so next time in the next couple seconds when you hear us, we'll have all the guests here. And hopefully we can get this show started. Welcome back, guys. As I mentioned earlier, we're now with our guests. I'm going to let them introduce themselves. We got 3 here in front of us. So we'll start with Hidayah since you're at the top there. I guess I already said her name, but, go ahead and just introduce yourself.
I'm Hidayah. I'm 29. I've been married for 3 years, alhamdulillah. And I guess I'm a GP. That's about
mashallah,
it. That's the main stuff.
A DP. Wait, what's a DP?
General practitioner, a GP.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, GP. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm dumb sometimes. Okay, so now I'll go down to Khalid. You can introduce yourself.
Yeah, so my name's Khalid. I've also been married for we're creeping up to 3 years now. And I'm an electrician.
Hey,
mashallah.
Mashallah. And next, we got you, Nabila.
Hi, okay, I'm Nabila, and I have been married since I'm 21, and I've been married 13 years. So you guys can
You've been married since you were 21?
MashaAllah.
Yeah.
I'm excited to hear that.
Okay, yeah, I did not know this. Okay, well, there's going to be a lot of experience that you can kind of share with us, inshallah.
Don't put the pressure on, but yeah. And I've got 3 kids. So.
Mashallah.
Okay, so let's get started. Sarah, you have some questions already loaded up there. Basically, it's just going to be more of like a question and answer thing, unless you guys have something that you want to bring up that we spoke about in our last episode. If you guys have anything to say about that, I don't know if you heard the whole conversation we had in the last podcast, but we were just telling about our own experiences when it came to relationships and like navigating that realm. And it seems like you guys were successful in navigating that realm since you guys are all married. So alhamdulillah or mashallah. Did you guys have any kind of notes or insight into what we were talking about? Like, maybe the questions will answer that. So, let's just jump to that. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself here, guys. Go ahead there, Sara.
Before I jump into the questions, I'm just going to do an honorary introduction for my brother, Sabri. He's coming. He's just late, but in case he doesn't get a chance to introduce himself.
He's putting his
baby to sleep.
His baby to sleep right now.
Daddy duties.
Exactly.
But Sabri has been married for
2, 3, 4. We should probably know this. We literally
16,
we were at his
17,
wedding.
19, 20, 21. Almost 6 years now.
Has it been 6 years?
26. 2000. No, sorry, 5. Wow, I suck at
okay.
math. Yeah, I think 5. Anyways, so he will join us soon, but we're gonna get into the first set of questions.
And you guys can hear us, okay, right?
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure.
Okay, and by the way, like these, unless I say there are some questions that are specific to the guys and some that are more to the girls, but otherwise just feel free to answer as you see fit. But the first question that we have here is it a cultural or religious thing for the women to move to where the man lives when they get married?
I feel like maybe Khalid might have, because he literally moved his wife. from here.
He moved his wife.
I'm just saying.
Bit of background. My wife is Canadian. I think very friends of you guys as well. But yeah, so she ended up moving to Australia. We got married in Canada and so on and so forth. But I don't think it's the cultural norm though. Like there are a few other people that I know of that have moved to Australia, as in men that came here, moved here, and like vice versa. So I think it just depends on, as a couple, obviously you guys have to communicate. If you're long distance, you have to talk about, all the hard stuff early, especially when it comes to making that big move. And whatever you guys agree on, whether it's, hey, okay, look, this person's got the better job, this person's doing this, it might be situational, it might be, there's a lot of different factors. So depending on what you guys speak about, depending on what you guys decide, essentially it's up to you guys to decide what you want to do.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that.
Yeah. Honest. And do you guys have any insight on that, Nabila or Hidayah? Either we can go.
I was just. You go. No. I was just gonna say. I think maybe that question might have stemmed from previous generations, and I guess with having more traditional households in the older generation, it might have been that a lot of the time the man might have been the breadwinner, so it just worked out better for them, for the female to move. So I guess you'd find that a lot of females would move. But I think in our generation, it could be either way. Like it could be, it could be better off for the girl to move or for the guy to move. And like Heidi said, I think it's just about working out what works best for you guys as a couple.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was gonna sort of say. In the past, the men have sort of been the ones more established in their job or whatnot, and so it only made sense for the woman to usually go that way. But now I think it's just more about just communicating, and even if the man is established, like he might want to change, and I think it's really got to do. I think times have really changed where it can go either way. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's more of it was more of just a cultural thing that we kind of carried with us, or in a mindset basically. And
I always used to think that too. Like if you ever spoke to someone who wasn't in your city, like the woman in that relationship would always have to move. Like that
I actually held that feeling myself for the longest time. But
oh really?
Yeah.
Would you ever move?
Would I ever move?
Someone that wasn't from
if they lived in like a nice hot place that didn't have too much cold winter, and I also didn't have my allergies just take over for the rest of the summer. Sorry guys, I'm also dealing with like horrible allergies right now, so I might sneeze halfway through here. Okay, what else we got here?
Okay, this one's a really funny one. Someone said, how to deal when you see who/how your spouse is now that you live together. I guess like when their true colors show, like, because you can only really know someone so much before you get married, and then when you move in, it's like,
yeah, that's actually something that I've worried about. Like, how do you feel that? Do you guys have any insight?
Well, I think that can be two things. Like when I read that question, I thought, like, do they mean, obviously when you move in with someone, even if you've known someone for years and years and years, it's always going to be different when you move in with them. And that, unfortunately for us, I don't say unfortunately, but when you're Muslim and being from our community and stuff, we don't obviously move in with someone until we're married. So some things reveal themselves. So like maybe it could just be a matter of how they live, like in terms of like the cleanliness, or not keep upkeep and things like that. It could mean that. So if it meant that, then obviously that's that kind of stuff you can work on. Like obviously if one person is a little bit more OCD and the other one isn't, or if someone's particular about something, just that kind of stuff you'll always have a problem with. It doesn't matter how long you've known someone. But in terms of the person's true colors, now that's scary. You'd hope not. I think you'd have a lot of conversation beforehand. That's why you're getting to know them. If you know someone, they're not going to, unless you're like someone who's evil, I suppose, you know what I mean? You're not going to flip on someone after you've moved in with them. That's not usually the norm. However, there's practices that you don't like about someone, but you can talk it through, like, for example, like I'm rambling, but I'm just saying, like, for example, if the person's like really cool and they're happy for you to work and, you're working, you're both living your independent life. And then once you move in, all of a sudden they say to you, I don't want you to work anymore. that could be another extreme, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
But those kind of things, like you would think that you talk those kind of things out beforehand.
Yeah, that's probably something you should bring up before getting married, whether you're going to be working or not working. Being like, I think we had that whole conversation of like the house manager, housewife,
domestic
engineer.
Get it
That's
right.
what it was.
Okay, get it right. No, just kidding.
But yeah, it's definitely something. But also, like, is there any way to field things like that? Because I feel like in our community, it's kind of hard to hide that because everybody's so tight knit. It depends on exactly what relationship you have, because maybe this will come up later, but like maybe you get married to someone who's not within our own community.
Right.
So they're not as well known between the people that you usually deal with. So how do you feel that person? Because that person can then hide a part of themselves until you actually get married and figure it out. Like, it reminds me of that whole Rami episode. Did you guys ever watch Rami, the TV show?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like in season 2, what he did to that girl. Did you ever watch Rami?
I did. I just don't remember the.
Well, essentially, like
details.
He hid the whole part where is
his
really
addiction?
bad. It's like really.
Oh yeah.
But essentially, like, he had a whole other relationship with another woman.
Oh yeah.
Literally got married, and she found out like the night they got married that he was having this whole relationship with his own cousin. It was a whole thing. But like, of course, we're not dealing with that kind of extreme, especially within our community. But like. Yeah, I feel like there should be a way to kind of field that, but I don't know if it's an issue that really comes up in our own community, like in the Hari
depends.
community. When I say our own community, I mean a Hari community.
Yeah, I think that's just a really hard one. Like, I think there's certain things that you just will never know, and you just got to communicate as much as you can. All you can do before is have like open discussions about everything, like even the hard stuff. And if you have any concerns, like, you need to voice it before you go into marriage. And particularly not being blinded by wanting seeing what you want to see rather than, what might be in your face, because you're going to have to deal with it later. But like things like that, where if someone's going to scam you, like, I mean, that's why you pray your istikhara, but there's no, I don't think there's any way that you could actually predict that. And sometimes it's just nasib, and some people, unfortunately, like, they might get unlucky. And, I mean, I don't know any way that if someone was that much like that deceiving or lying to you, I don't know any way that you could actually pick that up if it didn't show through like if you had proper discussions and it didn't show.
Unfortunately, at that point, you're dealing with like psychopath levels of hiding who your true self. If you're like communicating that much and they show this whole other side of themselves.
That's kind of
scary.
I think
at the end of the day, the main thing is communication. Whether it's the big stuff, the small stuff, like if you don't communicate, you're probably gonna, fall into some issues down the track.
Yeah, I think the big part that I'm hearing here is that a lot of the relationship really comes down to communication. Like, that's the biggest part of it. As long as you're communicating with each other, at least everyone's on the same page and you're not dealing with unnecessary arguments, and issues that might come up later are usually dealt with early on. I feel like, communication kind of deals with all those kind of issues.
But like
and one word that Hidayah just said was talking about the tricky stuff, because sometimes you're so like happy about like 80% of the stuff, but then there's that little thing that bugs you, like something that's really like you're strongly passionate about, or something that you really like, everyone can catch a vibe, and then there's something that might not be so significant to the other, but it is to you, and you think that you can just like ignore it. Those things are the ones that you really need to talk about, so the tricky questions are always the things that that it could be a bit confrontational or whatnot, but that's exactly what you want. You want to discuss them and get them out of the way, because eventually, like, you might be able to just keep it quiet for a while, but eventually it's just going to surface, and it's probably going to make or break you as well.
Okay,
that's fair.
I think onto that, I think even sometimes you might talk about things and it might hurt the other person, but at the same time, it's necessary for you guys to move forward. So you say, all right, look, this is how I feel, but I don't want to hurt my significant other, so on and so forth. But at the same time, if you guys don't, if you're not able to cross that hurdle, it's going to affect you guys in the long run. And then it's going to be like small lingering issues that you guys are not dealing with. And then they just kind of bottle up, and then you guys will be in trouble. So communication is key. Even if you're gonna, even if it's hard, even if you're gonna be upset, you guys, as long as you have the love there and the understanding, you guys will be able to work it out.
Yeah, because I feel like generally, in any relationship, like if you have an issue with someone, but you kind of sedate it and you kind of try and kick the can down the road, eventually it's going to come out in some other way. Like maybe for something small, you might lash out. For something like I don't know, they leave something on the table and for some reason you have this whole tirade and they think like, why are they overreacting for this one little thing?
Yeah.
But really it's because of all these other things that have been building up to that moment and you just never realized it because it was never communicated to you in the beginning.
That's true.
Am I on the right track?
And I think,
yeah,
100%. And I was just going to say, like, you know, it's really important to communicate them before you get married, because I think like Nabila said, a lot of it, like there might be things that you might just brush over and think that they're not important, but let's say something is a really, really big deal to you. This might actually be a deal breaker, but you know, you don't realize it because you're brushing it off as like insignificant because it's insignificant to the other person.
Right.
This might be something that you have to like work through in your marriage, but if you were not married, maybe something that you would have decided to actually end things over. You know what I mean? And like working through that can be really challenging. So if you can do it beforehand, you at least, I guess what I'm saying is your threshold, your commitment's obviously much more after marriage. So you're going to go through probably a lot more trying to work through something that might be really difficult for you to work through. But if you had that conversation before, then I don't know, it could have been maybe a bit different or less hard on you.
Okay.
That's true. I mean, to follow up with that topic of, you know, kind of having that open communication before you get into the marriage and then also when you're in it. Another question, or I guess two related questions are, what are questions to ask before marriage, or what are topics and things to talk about with a potential spouse before marriage?
Everything. Everything. Like just everything.
Yeah.
I don't think anything's really off the table.
Do you feel like
get married?
Do you feel like though, like sorry to cut you off, I was just gonna say, like, do you feel like
okay.
Is there ever a time where it's wrong to be too open before marriage? Like, are there some things that you should maybe hold back from talking about before you enter? Like, what do you guys feel about that? Just lay it all out on the table.
No, they're all well. Nabila's saying no with her head.
I think there's things that might be uncomfortable before you're married, but I don't think there's anything that you should withhold. You know.
I think and it goes in like a threshold. So those things that you're just talking about now that might be uncomfortable, I think it's like a pyramid system, right? So you don't just on the first date ask certain questions, like it just doesn't make sense. You wouldn't ask them about, you know, for example, that you wouldn't ask them about how many partners they've had or anything like that. That's quite intimate, and that's like not something you want to ask on the first date. But there's really no point. You don't even know if you like this person,
right?
But gradually, obviously, if that's something that you want to know, like, you know, you could do that. You could ask these questions, but these uncomfortable questions. But further down the track, once you've sort of established, you know, you've caught each other's sort of energy, like if you're really interested in each other, if you like each other, if there's so many other things that are compatible and you can see that it is working, then yeah, why not? You know, if that's something that you want to ask, then go ahead. But I don't think there's anything that you shouldn't ask, because it goes back to, especially if it's come into your mind that you want to know something and then you're just brushing it, like we just said before, just because it's going to be uncomfortable or it's going to be an awkward conversation, and but it's something that's going to linger, then it's just going to arise again later on. So I don't think there's anything like you're planning on spending the rest of your life with this person. I don't want to make it sound melodramatic or anything, but you're planning on spending the rest of your life with this person. So I don't think there should be anything else off the table.
And my question for you guys, so like what, I know that we're talking about just a general question, but what questions did you guys end up asking? Like specifically for you individuals, did you ask about their finances? Did you ask about, I don't know, whether you want to move in with their family or something? Like there's just some random questions here. I know I don't know why I even said that, but
very specific.
Very specific. I was watching a TikTok about that earlier. Just don't worry about it.
He's taking notes here, guys.
So I'll let you guys answer.
What were you saying there, Khalid?
Yeah, you definitely ask those specific questions. Like, I don't know, if she's taller than you, hey, how tall are you? If you're, you know, whatever it might be, like finances, anything that bothers you, anything that you think is relevant to your life. What's your family like, you know? What do you do for a living? What are your hobbies? And obviously these are surface level questions, but then there's obviously a lot deeper questions, whether, you know, intimacy, there's a lot of different things that you can talk about.
You didn't ask each other, like, do you snore? Because you're gonna have to sleep next to this person for the rest of your life. Imagine that.
I know.
You're surprised. You're like, I can't.
I should probably write that down. I never thought about that.
Yeah, I think yeah, like I think you should. We talked about most things as well, like including finances and things. But I guess one thing that I guess retrospectively kind of wish that we uncovered was talking, like a lot of people talk about finances, like how much money do you have, or like do you have any debt, this, that, not how much money do you have, but how much, you know, your earnings and stuff, because obviously you're going to build a life together. But even talking about things like financial values, because sometimes they can really differ. So like you might earn very similar incomes, but like you might have very different ideas on how it's appropriate to spend your money. So I think it's really important to tease those things out. You know, just even you could do that through conversation, I think. And yeah, I think it's important to find that out.
Okay, yeah, financial values, because I always think about the finances like how much do you have, but how do you spend it? Because sometimes people don't have a lot, but they spend so well that it's almost as if they did have a lot, or it doesn't matter how much they really have as long as they're spending it properly, investing properly. So yeah, financial, what was the term used again? How did I forget it already? Financial values.
You said it too. You should be taking notes.
I'm shaking my head right now.
Open up your notes app. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, that's actually a really good point. I never really thought about that, but definitely adding that to my list of questions to ask.
Yeah.
Here's a bit of an interesting one. Would you recommend a prenuptial contract?
Isn't that your like, don't you have that on your nikah, on your contract anyway? I don't think you need a prenuptial contract. I think we have a nikah and you can just put anything specific on the nikah. I wouldn't, but if you want to, I mean,
I feel like
it's necessary.
I feel like that religiously, at least in Islam, like there's already, if it ever did happen, if divorce did ever happen, there is a religious
like rules. I don't know.
Yeah,
like,
there's religious rules
to
how you deal with a divorce, basically. So I feel like having a prenup is more of a Western thing.
It definitely is.
And you can add anything on your like nikah contract as well. Like if you wanted anything specific, you can put that, because you sign a contract when you know. Doesn't sound very romantic, but it is a contract. So if you had anything specific, you could put that on there.
Read the fine print, fellas.
I'd be like, I get all your makeup afterwards.
Be like, I want a Birkin set. No, I'm just kidding. Oh, actually, there was one. It's a long one. Sorry. It says, I had many random but important topics that can be considered as part of a bigger conversation when it comes to relationships, such as interracial marriages, two-income households, expectations and compromise, and how to make sure to get to know the person with the intention of marriage without getting distracted or thrown off, like asking the right questions and knowing what to look for, red and green flags. That's a lot. That was a loaded question, but
I lost you halfway through there.
Basically, like this question kind of covers it covers interracial marriages, you know, two-income households, setting expectations and how to compromise, and I guess how to make sure you get to know the person with the intention of marriage without getting distracted. So, I mean,
what do you mean getting to know someone with the intention of marriage?
I'm not really sure what they mean by distracted, but it says, or getting thrown off, like asking the right questions and knowing what to look for. Red and green flags. I mean, honestly, like in my opinion, no one else can tell you what to look for in a relationship, because you know what you want. Like, you know, maybe there are certain things that your friend or someone that you know can say, look for someone who has good deen and is on the correct like path, you know?
The basics.
But in terms of like the core of the person, like you know what you want, you know? I can't, you can't tell me what I want.
Everyone's different on exactly what they want, right? So I don't think there's one straight answer for exactly what. I guess there are those basics that we're talking about. Do other people know about the basics? I think everyone has an idea of what the basics are, like, you know, the good deen, being good to their parents, being good to their like friends and strangers.
I feel like a good person.
I feel like a big thing, I'm not sure if you guys look out for this, but I feel like a big thing is like seeing how people treat other strangers.
Yeah, 100.
Yeah,
that's really important.
Because how someone treats someone that they can't get anything from or don't need anything from them is really like a big thing to look out for, right?
That's true.
Yeah, especially at a restaurant. I don't know how y'all are at a restaurant.
Oh, I think I read this or like something, but I remember seeing somewhere, reading something where like this girl was trying to judge the guy that she was talking to. By they went to a restaurant and she wanted to see how he interacted with like the waiters and stuff. And I was like, interesting.
So what was the general question there again? I just wanted to get back to that one real quick.
Interracial marriages.
Okay, that's another thing to bring up. So I know that in our community, specifically in the Harari community, like there's a huge emphasis on getting married to someone within your own community, but maybe not from the guys' end, but I feel like from the girls' end, there's a difference in how many girls are available versus guys that are available.
Yeah,
like
we're
the
at
numbers,
a very big disadvantage.
Yeah,
here, okay?
there's a huge disadvantage there. So I feel like it's inevitable that we're gonna have a lot of interracial marriages.
That, or maybe you guys will finally start to get your second wives. Who knows? We'll see.
I don't think y'all gonna get that desperate yet. How important is that to you guys? The ethnicity or interracial conversation of marriage. Do you guys think that's a big thing? I know it's very controversial, but in your opinion, like, how big of a thing is that to you? Do you guys believe that's something that we should really be pushing for, or should we just be focusing on the person's deen and that should be the only main thing to look out for?
To me, it's quite important. Like, at the end of the day, it is our identity, you know. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that you can't uphold your identity with another person of another race, even though it is a lot more difficult. And then, you know, looking at us and the way we are now, like we don't speak to each other in Gesinan, for example. So if you add all of that on top, it becomes even harder. But my personal opinion, I do hold that, you know, to a high regard. So it is quite important to me. That being said, if I find someone that's, you know, amazing, obviously Dean is over everything else. And you know what, look, this is the person for me. Well, that is the person for me. But in a general sense, yeah, that's pretty important to me.
Okay.
That's fair.
And girls, how do you guys feel about that too?
I think the same. I think, well, you're speaking to all three of us, and all three of us have got Aryan partners.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
We're pretty biased right now. But however, I think it's super important because I feel like marriage in itself is hard as it is, like to your own kind of person, let alone someone who's of a different race. Not saying that's anything wrong with that. But my thing is that while there still is, like if there's a supply and demand issue, then obviously you've got no options, right?
Exactly.
But whilst there is a supply, like that should definitely be looked at. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, because I feel like because things can be so much more complicated when you've got another a person of a different race, especially as you progress in the relationship and you have children. You know, there's the whole fact, and especially now, I feel like you just don't know. And I remember how back in the day when my generation, we used to listen to our aunts and things. That was a little dig at you guys, but you know, they always used to say, listen to those around you, and it really makes sense because nowadays there's so much bala, like I don't know that in the word in the English
like
term,
hardship,
but yeah, that's right. So you just don't know you just don't know what you're getting, right? Like so especially if you are talking to someone that's Hurrian, like okay, you can talk with them, but you can also find out about them, you know, about their family, their background, their, you know, grandfathers, great grandfathers. You can know, you know who they are essentially, you know. But when you're going to someone of a different race, you really don't know. It's whatever you have gathered, whatever information you've gathered from this person is all you're going to get, really, because you can't do any sort of research about them. You don't know their backgrounds. And again, like I said, when you've got children, you have to think about once you've got children, you've got, you know, you drop your children off at your in-laws' houses, or you drop them off at they're going to blend with the extended family. There's just so much more you got to think about and worry about, I feel like. So whilst we have got the supply and demand, I feel like that's something that should be looked into.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with that.
Yeah, and Hidayat, you have any?
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of share similar, I guess, ideas to both what Khalid and Nabila said. But I think the way I see it is kind of like being, for me, I guess I preferred a harari, but it wasn't like a you know, must criteria. So you know, if someone like obviously Dean over everything, so like if someone met all my criteria, like, and like I liked them as a person, and you know, I thought they were amazing and all this stuff, like even if they weren't harari, it wouldn't bother me. But it's kind of like being gay, so it's kind of like that icing on the cake, like that's how I kind of think of it. So like, you know, it kind of is that extra layer. And I think that I don't think there's anything wrong with it, you know, if they're not, but if they are, I think there are certain things that are much easier, like Nabila said, particularly the blending of families, which I think is very dependent on your family values or how your family are. But I feel like a lot of harari families prefer harari. So you are, if you do marry within the community, you're almost kind of guaranteed that blending of your families, and that was quite important to me. Whereas I think if, you know, with interracial couples, I think they can have some obstacles, and that's very dependent on whether their families are accepting or not. Yeah.
Okay, so, you know, we kind of just talked about interracial marriages. This might be a little personal, so you don't have to answer.
Oh yeah, I was supposed to answer that question myself.
Yeah, right? I was gonna say, like, do you prefer, like, is that something that you're open to, or?
No, like I've always I've been on the fence for this my whole life. I'm always on one side and I'm on the other side, where I'm like, it's like super important. Like, I'm not gonna look at anyone that's not harari.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
And then on the other days, you know, like you guys mentioned, Dean over everything.
Yeah. And
as long as they're a good person, then I'm not gonna. It's not gonna be a deal breaker, essentially. Yeah. Well, how about for you?
So what's your final answer?
Oh no, for me it's like,
it just changes every day.
Yeah, it changes, but like for the most part, I'm like, it's not a deal breaker. I'm willing to accept like someone who's outside of my own ethnicity.
Usually you hear that, ladies? You all have a chance. You all have a chance.
Yeah. So wait, how about you then? Go ahead. What's your opinion on that?
My opinion, my preference.
Yeah, your preference.
You know, again, what everyone said, to reiterate, like obviously Dean over everything else. Like that's the first thing I look at. But my preference is harari. If obviously, like, we don't know what the future has in store for us. So if it just so happens, like, don't come back to me in a few years if I get married to someone who isn't. And it's like, you said you wanted a harari guy. You know, that's my preference. So that's what I'm looking for. But if it just so happens that I end up with someone who isn't, it's because it ended up working for us. And like, you know, cultural values and like how close I am with my family is something that it's really important to me. So if he wasn't harari, he would have to be willing to assimilate into our culture and like be open to it. And then if he has a culture that's also like a dominant one, like it was just a compromise that we'd have to make if the relationship is worth it to us.
Yeah, and usually people choose to go with their own ethnicity because of that issue, because it's easier just for the whole marriage to have someone who knows your culture and grow up in the same culture.
But there's the argument of like, are you really going to go with someone just because it's easier? You know? So whatever happens. Let's just leave it at that. Okay, here's one that's directed towards, actually I'll save this for when Sabri joins us. Here's a good one. Is a friendship worth ruining for a chance at marriage with that person? So if you were, for you guys who've been married, if you were previously friends with your now spouse, was that something that you were like, you know, is it worth, I mean, obviously it's worth it in the end because you're all married, alhamdulillah, but you know, was that something that you contemplated, like, should I take him out of the friend zone, or should I take her out of the friend zone? You know, like, how do you, or did you kind of go into that friendship with the end goal, like, I want to marry this person?
Yeah, me and my husband, we weren't friends before. So like we literally got to know each other to get married, and that's what happened. So, I mean, I have an opinion on this, but maybe I'll let other people who might have been in the situation speak first.
Wait, you said that you guys were friends before, or you weren't friends before?
No, we weren't.
Okay.
We weren't.
Okay.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll listen to, if you want to wait until like everybody else speaks and then.
I mean, I didn't know Amina. She was a stranger at one point, so.
True.
And that's the same with me as well. So I don't know everyone.
So you guys all had, like, you guys didn't know the person really well ahead of time. Like, you guys were all like a stranger. Were you guys all recommended this person by someone else, or did you just
how'd you meet?
Hit him in the DMs and be like, "Yo, what's up?"
Yo, what's up?
You put in you actually jumped in the DM. No, I don't want to expose you like that.
That's okay. That's a totally acceptable way. By the way, like we're in that time now.
Is that acceptable these days?
Girls or ladies, would you accept now if you weren't already married and someone slid into your DMs? Like, would you still be accepting of that, or does someone have to like either approach you in person or get your number somehow, or?
No, for sure. Like, I don't have a problem with it.
I don't feel like, yeah.
Just make sure your account is not on private.
Why?
So they can suss you out first. Look at your history.
Yeah, that's why they have to send that follow request, and if they're little
pictures. Then they feel like they already reeled you in when they send that follow request.
Not really.
Okay.
I think that's how a lot of people meet, and I think if you limit it to just face-to-face interactions, like. Mm-hmm. I don't know, especially in COVID. I don't know. I just feel like you're never going to meet anybody.
Yeah, COVID kind of changed the game.
So yeah, like, if Amir, if you were friends with someone, like you're really good friends with them.
Yeah.
And you get along, like would you risk ruining that friendship to pursue, a deeper relationship with them? A relationship period? I don't
know if it would be ruining it.
It is though, because if it doesn't work out, say goodbye to your friendship.
No, I feel like if you guys are with me, if you're like, what is that word when you're like, if you're mature adults, I don't know how I forgot that word. When you're mature adults, I feel like you can go from someone that you show interest to. If you say no, then you kind of go back to whatever relationship you had before that, no?
Yeah, I agree.
I think that's it. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
If you're two mature adults, look, yeah, and you're interested, you can go for it.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as you guys don't stab each other and it ends really badly.
Oh yeah,
you guys can say, all right, you know what, this is not working, let's part ways.
Mm-hmm.
Either you guys can, go back to being friends, or look,
mm-hmm.
you might be hostile, but I believe time heals. So over time, you'll be like, hey, all right, you know what, let's forgive each other, and and that's that. So to be honest, I think if someone does feel that way about someone, go for it.
Yeah. And I don't want to expose myself.
I think
go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say, I think, I don't think it will ruin the friendship, but sometimes I think if you have, let's say, for example, you've, decided to pursue a relationship and then it didn't work out, I think it can be hard to going back to platonic sometimes for people, and then that's when they lose the friendship. So It's not that they might be civil, they might be, they get along and stuff, but it's no longer fully platonic, so that they're not the friendship's not the same. I think that might be what the person might be talking about. But I still agree with Khalid. I think this is not just to do with relationships, but anything in life. I think the what if was always worse than trying something and then it doesn't work out. So the regret of what if. So I just think if you really are interested, then you just give it a go. And then if it doesn't work out, then it just wasn't meant to be. At least you tried.
That's true.
And it also could be because I feel like in the Muslim community in general, the level of friendship is kind of different. Usually the relationship between a guy and a girl, of course, is all that conversation of whether a guy and a girl can be friends. But usually that communication between the guy and the girl it's not like a day-to-day thing like you would do with your girlfriends kind of thing, right? So I feel like it's easier to kind of go back into that platonic relationship, because it's not like you were communicating every day to begin with. So when you express that interest, you kind of go back to how it was before. You may not speak maybe for a few weeks to get over that awkwardness, but I feel like when you speak to that person every once in a while, it'll blow over time. It's not really something that becomes a big thing, and as long as you're, of course, like I mentioned earlier, mature adults about it.
Mm-hmm. I think this question, I find it quite funny actually, and I know Khalid's got a lot, because me and Khalid, we've chatted many times in the past, and I feel like it's a very female, driven from a female, the question itself.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's a men issue. I don't believe it's a man issue. I think that if a man likes something, he'll go for it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that. Am I wrong? I'm not sure. However, I think it's a question that girls usually say, and it's like self-sabotaging themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you have a friendship with someone and you have an interest in wanting to get married,
mm-hmm.
and obviously this other friend as well, I'm assuming this friend is Harry or whatnot, but he also might have eventually he might want to get married too. If you have a friendship, that obviously means that you guys get along. You know each other, so you know each other pretty well, I would say. You've already eliminated a lot of unknowns with this person just by being a friend, because you already know all their quirks. You already know sort of, you might not know everything, but you've got your 2 steps in already, because you already sort of you can gauge this person. So if you've got a friendship, I mean, why not get married to someone who you have a friendship with?
That's true.
Instead of going and finding someone, like getting married to someone that completely, you already have to build all of that. So if you have a friendship, there's no like thinking, habit, if it doesn't work, is going to you're self-sabotaging yourself, because you're going by a prediction that it might not work, when that can happen with anybody. So it's about taking a chance and getting into it, and like being reliant on Allah. You know what I mean? So you've got a friendship, talk about it with your friend, be mature about it, go into it. If you both be upfront, if you've got a friendship and you're also like, you've got chemistry, for example. I'm assuming this question, the person obviously is not just a friend, because you can have just a friend, but you can have a friend that you might have some sort of chemistry or some sort of vibe with, right? If that's the kind of question I'm assuming it is. So why not? Like what's holding you back? Nothing but your fear, thinking that things are gonna end and you're gonna ruin your friendship. When you can actually be thinking about the positives, and you can actually grow this into a beautiful marriage.
Yeah,
that's a solid point.
And here we finally got Sebri in the building. He finally pulled up after putting his.
Do you want to say hi to everyone?
Baby to sleep.
I'm putting you on the spot. You're gonna have to.
You gotta say something to Mike. Gotta make sure this thing is working.
How are you guys?
Hello.
You gotta speak louder than that.
Come
on. I'm warming up, okay?
Okay.
Just jumped on.
I'm not like 8 episodes in like you. I'm warming up here. Sorry for being late. It's part of parenting.
Exactly. I feel like, I never even asked Nabila, are you the only guy here with a kid? Nabila, do you have any kids?
Yeah, she said.
Huh? Yeah. I didn't. Oh, shoot. I
have 3 children.
Oh, why didn't I hear that earlier? I should just walk out of the room.
It was part of her intro.
My bad. I was checking levels, okay?
Sure if this is going to be officially part of the podcast, but I need to introduce myself.
Yeah, go ahead. Introduce yourself.
I know Nabila, I know Khalid, and I know of you, Hidayah, but I don't think I've ever met you. So.
No, we've never met, so nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
But I know of you too.
That's how it works in our community and also on Instagram.
Yeah. Okay, so, I mean, we're just going to throw you off the deep end. So we're going to just jump into this question. It is addressed specifically for the husbands. It says, please break down what, air quote, being ready means for these men, please and thank you. So if you need some further clarification, sometimes, people get into situations and the guy will say, I'm not ready to get into a relationship or for marriage. So what would you as men who are married define as being ready?
What was ready for you?
And you, Khalid.
Yeah. Sorry.
There is no one answer to that. That's a very personal question. Being ready for marriage is something that applies differently for everyone, like male, female. Even if you've married once and you have to marry again, it means 2 different things for you in those both situations. So, but I will say there's a base, like there's things you can do that'll make your marriage easier for you once you get into it. And I think that's your perception of what is that going to be for me. Like what will make you happy, I think, is the answer to, yes, I'm ready now. So for some people, it could be finances. It could be where they are in their career, physically, mentally, their personal goals, if they feel like they have achieved them.
Speaking to your mic.
And that they can continue to grow after marriage as well. I think at that point they can see themselves being married. When you see yourself being married, I think you're ready.
So you're saying so for you specifically, was it like finances are like, you know what, I think I'm ready. I got the money for this. I'm ready to go jump into this, or you're like,
I think no, the finances is something that could hold you back. But I think being ready is really a mental thing. It's your state of mind. If you feel like you might be moving too quickly, or you're not ready for what's to come, because it is a big unknown when you're single and probably haven't, dated for years upon years in your life. You just don't know what to expect. But when you say, okay, I'm ready to take on these challenges and whatever comes my way, because really things will come your way. That's when you know yourself, okay, I'm ready to do this. And that might move quicker when you're with the right person.
Okay. And Khalid, go ahead.
I agree with Sabri. It's not how much money you have. It's not what job you have. You could be studying at uni and say, you know what, I'm ready. Like, I'll work, whatever it might be. And, or I'll work it out with my wife together, or whatever it might be. It doesn't to mean, all right, I've got this job, I'm a CEO of this, or I have a house, or it's just a feeling in you, you know what, look, I can do this. I'm at a stage in my life where I can take on the challenges and the responsibilities to do, A, B, and C, to live my life with a partner, and fulfill my responsibilities, and live together. So it's not, there's no set answer, like somebody said. It's just when you feel that way, you just know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wouldn't you say that? I don't know what your past dating life was and stuff before getting married, but when you did meet Amina, or maybe I shouldn't say her name. Sorry.
That's okay.
When you did meet your wife, did you feel like it was easier for you to take that next step at a certain point in your relationship?
I think I was already at that stage before I started speaking to Amina. And that's the only reason I was speaking to Amina. So I think I was already at that, I already had that mindset. So I think for me, it was just, all right, sweet. This is my intention. And, if it works out, I'm ready for whatever comes.
Okay, so you walked into it saying, no games. Let's just see if this works out. If it works out, if it does. If it doesn't, then so be it.
Yeah.
Do you guys think it's a requirement to know that you're ready for marriage before you even start getting into any type of relationship?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Because
do you have to be ready, or can you kind of just go into it and you're like, yeah, I'll figure it out. If she's the one, then it'll just work out.
Religiously, probably, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Smart answer.
But sometimes you might have that idea and just not be fully convinced, right? So you could just be delaying something that is in your mind that, is stopping you from fully saying, yeah, I am ready. But, like Khalid was saying, when you're mentally in it and you're ready, then I think you can just perform better as well. You'll be a better person. Your intentions are clear. And you won't be playing games.
Beautifully said.
Okay.
So
that was a solid answer.
I gotta start really writing some
Thanks for
notepad
not
stuff out here.
I know, right? Take notes.
Well, I'm gonna be editing this podcast, so I'll have it all back to playback.
That's true.
I just want to make one point. Just a question.
Go ahead.
I find it interesting that the question was aimed only at the guys, because I do feel like the same thing applies to girls, and there is an assumption that girls are always ready, but they need to be ready too.
Yeah. But okay, so then to kind of turn that question around, how would you guys say I think it's a fair question to ask.
I know what I do.
It's a fair question to ask. What would you define as being ready for a woman, to enter a marriage or at least a serious relationship for that reason?
Before you answer,
I think,
answer it for yourself, as a woman, but then also answer it for a husband. What would you want in your husband to say, yeah, he's ready for me?
Oh. Like what do they think?
Like you just heard how our perspective was, right? So what's your perspective?
See, now you're making
I
him
need to
think.
now. Yeah, like to be honest, I think I know. I'm like, what I say. Look, I think the same thing applies that it would apply to guys for girls. Like, I don't think it's that different. I think you need to be emotionally ready, rather than all the, I guess, superficial life things. And I think your answers were pretty much what I would expect. The main thing is you just don't want somebody, if you're ready, you don't want someone who's going to waste your time. I think that's the key thing. And I think you want someone who is prepared to, I guess, emotionally take on the challenges of being in a committed relationship, which is what a marriage is. So there's a lot of like obstacles that come with that. And somebody who's willing to, I guess, you're building a life together, and the idea is you will need to support each other, and someone who's ready to do that, and I guess accept not just the sides of you that they like, but accept the whole of you. And I think, so I think it's just an emotional thing.
Okay, and do you have anything to add on to that, Nabila?
Now what she said.
That's fair. That was all pretty solid advice.
Yeah.
Okay, I have another question for the ladies. Where did it go? Oh, here we go. How do I slide in and tell him that I have feelings for him? So I guess from a woman's perspective, like, how there's that whole thing of like, should we make the first move? Should the guys make the first move? Like, that's kind of what is the standard in our society, is that the guy should always be the one that pursues the lady or the woman. You know what I mean? So we're at a day and age now where girls are shooting their shot. It's normal. It's like a thing. But there are still guys who have traditional values that say, no, I don't want a woman to come to me. I want to be, it's all about the chase, as they say. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think there's a problem. Like, I mean, you can be mature about it. If you like someone, and you're going to slide into their DMs, why not? But like, obviously, you don't want to hurt your feelings. You need to catch you need to catch the breadcrumbs. Like, if they're leaving you breadcrumbs, then obviously you go ahead with a bit more confidence. But I think everyone's just lacking a bit of confidence. Like, if you like someone, like, it's a yes or a no. Like, you move on. Slide in the DMs. If it's a no, then you move on. You don't get too sad about it. You just move on. And if it's a guy, do the same thing. But sitting around and just hoping for someone to slide into your DMs or just doing nothing about it is not going to get you anywhere either.
That's true.
Have any of you guys seen that meme where it's a skeleton sitting on a bench saying, like, I think it says something like, I'm waiting for my husband or waiting for my wife?
No, but I got the visual now.
So
you trying to say that's us? I'm just kidding.
I'm trying to say that'll happen to you if you just sit there waiting.
But you know what? Like, I think part of that fear of, putting yourself out there and telling someone how you feel is not just the rejection, but nowadays, like, I don't know if people are really private anymore. Like, there's that fear of if a guy slides into your DM, a whole group chat of friends is going to see that. And so it's like, if the girl says no, now this guy's one, ridiculed, and two, sorry to say it, but like, he doesn't have a chance with any of her friends now either. Cause it's like, oh, he messaged you? No.
Well, that's what I mentioned, I think, on the first part where I said pride is a big thing, because you don't want to get, you feel like if they do reject you, like everyone's going to know about it, So like, you feel like it's going to, because of how I mentioned, there's a tight-knit community.
You guys are taking this too far, man.
Okay, go ahead. What's your opinion?
That's actually like it's a thing. You probably can't relate, but it's a thing for our generation.
Relate, but
how many DMs did you jump into?
Describing is really immature.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say it's very immature, and like, maybe you shouldn't be shooting your shot at someone who would do something like that. But people surprise you. You never know.
So maybe we should put it out there and say, if you are the one spreading this, what goes around comes around. So if you're single and it's your turn, well,
good luck to you, buddy.
Yeah. So I think if you approach it from a mature standpoint and you put yourself out there in a mature way, and you say, okay, if someone else reads these words or if they're published in the newspaper, I won't have anything to hide from this.
Yeah, as long as you don't jump in and be like, yo, ma, what's good?
Okay, well, I don't think
no, I'm saying that I'm agreeing with you. I'm saying that as long as you don't come in like that, like in some immature way, I feel like
no, that's
nothing
fine.
to fear.
Like your way is your way, but I mean, you don't just profess your love to anyone you meet on the street.
Yeah.
You like Nabila was saying, there are breadcrumbs. But sometimes, even if you don't get any breadcrumbs and it's just something you want to get off your chest, maybe you leave them some breadcrumbs and see if they bite. And if they don't, and you personally just say, I need to share this with them, and then just find out what the answer is, then you do that.
And for all of you guys, would you prefer someone to come directly to you or work through like some type of messenger, like someone who can maybe pass on the message to you?
Come direct.
Come direct? Yeah, because I feel like, well, it depends, I guess, on, because you don't want to reject. I feel bad sometimes just rejecting people straight up. Not saying that I've done it a lot, but
I beg to differ, but
but like you just feel worse. But if it goes through a messenger, then you're like, okay, maybe
no, because then that third person now knows, and that's embarrassing for the person that you.
Oh no, but that person is the one who sent them to you, in a way. So
like if I was trying to set you up with someone and you told me like, no, sorry, I'm not interested. It's like it's less painful, not painful, but you feel you don't feel as bad because you're not rejecting them to their face.
Exactly.
That's get out of here.
Well, can I say I'm just
taking the easy way out.
When someone comes at you, when someone comes at you directly, it really puts you on the spot, and you have to think about it because you know on the other side of that there is a human with feelings. Yeah. When you're just going through Sara, it's easy to just deflect and say no.
But they still have feelings. It's just I'm doing the rejecting, not him.
Yes, but being Amir in his position, it's a lot easier to say no to you than if the person came to him.
So your advice, Amir, then, if someone wants to shoot their shot, is to go directly to you?
Yeah, now I'm more mature.
I'm saying you'll have more success that way.
Yeah, now I'm more mature. But back in the day, I'd be like, nah, this is awkward. I have social anxiety. Get away from me.
Yeah, I think direct is definitely the way to go. But I know that I've heard some opinions where it's like, we're at a point now where, I mean, I guess given lockdown and everything, it's hard to meet people. Yeah. Because you're not really traveling and you're not really going out and about. So sometimes being set up is the way to go. Yeah. Like sometimes you might just have a friend who might be well connected. And so they're like, hey, I noticed that you're friends with so-and-so. Like, what's their situation? Can you put in a good word? I don't know. Like, what do people say? I don't know. But, like that also might be, you just need that person to connect you. It doesn't mean that they're doing the work of like, asking you out or whatever. Like that's up to the two people. But, but yeah, that was a good question. Okay, so I have another good question here. What is the best and hardest thing about marriage?
There's so many things. I don't know how to answer this question.
Wow, that's so cute.
Okay. So this is maybe a question, kind of jump off of that one. So like, you're going into the whole marriage thing, and I guess what are the things that you wish people told you about that happens in the realm of marriage that you didn't know about and you wish you knew about before you actually got married and went into that whole relationship? Like things you wish you were set up for, or things that you wish that you kind of were told might happen, and maybe how to navigate them in marriage. Because I feel like there are certain things that we just don't know until we actually are in that relationship. Like you're really locked in there now. Oh, yeah, I guess that's all.
I would say what you just said.
What?
You're really locked in.
You wish someone told you that?
Well, no, someone like really described what that meant to you.
Like it's not like when you're in a normal relationship, it's like, hey, okay, I'll see you tomorrow. kind of thing. But then when you're in marriage, you're like, I guess we're going to be next to each other 24 hours, 7 days a week, especially with COVID. That really became a thing. Like, it wasn't a joke anymore. You literally are next to each other 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
The funny thing is, I think that I'm talking about 13 years ago, but what you don't, a lot of times what happens with us when you're younger as well is that you hear the word marriage and then you just, you're like, yeah, I'm going to get married. Even when the guy has decided they want to get married, the female has decided. And then you get so busy preparing for the marriage, that entails like the wedding, all the several different festivities that we have. And the focus is always there. I don't think that our parents probably have really told us what marriage is like, and it's what we see in our family home. So and it's either that or what we see from, movies and whatever else, like we absorb from. So I think we're so invested in the wedding process, and then finally you finish the wedding, and then you go home from your honeymoon or wherever it might be, and then you realize, and then a lot of things start to unpack. I feel like as soon as you have done that, not somebody's nodding. So yeah, so start to unpack, and you realize like, damn, okay, so the wedding is finished, so all the novelty wears off, and then now you've realized that there's just all these other things that you never really thought about before, like, taking care of the home, who's going to take out the rubbish, who's going to cook, you're both working most probably. So there's just a lot. And then everything dies down, and then you realize, if you haven't done your research at the beginning, and now you realize that, damn, I finished the wedding, the novelty's run out, do I like this person?
Oh.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So you need to, and then you have to then start to learn how to coexist together. Because things will start to bug you. They'll do a certain thing. They'll leave the toilet seat. I'm not talking from experience or anything, but I'm just throwing it out there. They'll leave things here or there. Like, there's all sorts of stuff. So that's when you only then realize what a marriage is. So all the superficial stuff that you're wasting, a lot of people waste a lot of time before the marriage, like wondering, talking about standards. I don't like this person because this person's not tall enough, or this person's not this. These are really, really superficial things for a marriage. You got to work on the character. So I think that we're investing so much time on things like that, as well as on weddings and festivities. And we're not really thinking about, okay, I need to find someone who's got character, not just looks, but someone whose character I can live with for the rest of my life. Do I like this person? Is this person kind? Is this person, is he generous? Is he approachable? Has he got ego? Can he be understanding? You know what I mean? Like, all of these things, that's when you realize what the marriage is about. It's got nothing to do, because we're focused so much on looks and all the other stuff that we're not thinking about the things that will matter, because this person might be incredibly good looking, but down the track you'll have children with them, and then if he's good looking and he's not helping you out with the kids, that's not going to do nothing for you. Like, you're just going to be like, right,
all of a sudden he's ugly.
Yeah, all of a sudden he's very ugly all of a sudden. So yeah, character and marriage, there's just like so much. There's just so much that, and I don't, like, there's no one to blame. There's no one there to teach as well. And I think that's what we're lacking in, just understanding.
We should have like a Harari premarital counselor out there or something. I really don't see anything wrong with it. Like, I feel like this generation is it's
very different.
We've been through a lot. Yeah. We survived COVID-19, so we need premarital counseling.
Well, parents will probably say that they've been through a lot too,
No, they
jungles
have,
and stuff.
But the way that our parents look at marriage and the way that
it's very different.
Look at marriage now, like, it's very, very different. Yeah. So that's all.
You're about to say something too, Sari. What were you about to say earlier?
Well, I can say multiple things, but for Nabila's point, she was talking about like living habits, and I would say something that isn't really glamorized in our community would be moving out and living with roommates. But I did that for university, and I feel like I got such a great experience from living with total strangers. like each of my 4 years. And those were some things that I learned. Like those are some years where I learned a lot of things in terms of living with people, being patient with people, and also taking responsibility for things outside of, like inside the house, I mean. And those are experiences that you can take with you one day when you do have your own household, and you're faced with the same challenges, because they're going to be the exact same things, just with a different person. And so that's your opportunity to say, oh, I've been here before. I know how to navigate the situation, and just pretty much like act properly. Not sort of like expect someone to do everything for you, get upset when something isn't going a certain way, and kind of set you up for some success. And it does take two people for that to happen. So, you know, these are things you just got to talk about. I think that makes it a lot easier.
Yeah. On the first day you move into the house, you got to be like, okay, so who's washing the dishes from now on? Who's taking out the garbage? You know, set some ground rules.
I think you got to feel your way out. You got to feel your way out. Like, see what the person likes to do. See how they are.
Yeah.
And then when something's bothering you, just vocalize it, because nobody can read minds.
Yeah.
And the moment you have expectations on someone and then they don't perform, or they don't meet them,
you're setting yourself up for failure.
Well, not your own for failure, but
your own expectations for failure. If you're expecting something without communicating it, basically.
Like, you mean you'll just be disappointed because
you'll be disappointed, and then you're in a case of like conflict and looking for a resolution, and then that gives you another challenge. See if you can overcome that.
See, we're all learning things.
Sorry, somebody, I missed a lot of what you said, so sorry if I repeat.
That's okay.
Double up.
That's
but,
okay.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to add on what Nabila said as well. And I mean, Nabila got married like 10 years after you, and nothing really is different, to be honest. I think we're not really equipped, or like we're not really told what it's like. And I think like you see your parents' marriage as an example, but that's a marriage that's had many years of work, you know, like they've been together for ages, and no one really tells you what it took to go from being, you know, newly married to where they are maybe like 20 or 30 years down the track. And you expect things to kind of be how things are with them, and then, you know, it doesn't really match up, and you're kind of like, what's wrong? Like, what's happening? You know, like, why isn't it like this? And I think there isn't any, like, I don't know, I feel like no one really tells you what work needs to be done to get there, you know? Yeah.
As married people, if someone was either seeking a serious relationship, they're in one, like if they came to you asking for advice, would you guys be open to, you know, sharing advice with them, or do you feel like maybe you're not qualified? Like, what do you guys feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, we can help them with whatever we can, you know. With whatever experience that we have, I'm sure a little bit of insight is better than, you know, jumping in with absolutely no information or nothing to equip yourself. So if anyone has any questions or whatnot,
because I think, you know, you can ask your parents, but sometimes they can't always relate, right? Like they got married at a different time than we did, and you know, you might say like, oh, you know, this and this bothers me, and they're like, what does that even mean? Like, you know, it's something that bothers us might not be something that they even consider. So it's good to know that there are people in our community that we can kind of go to ask for advice. And you know, everyone in our panel of discussion today they're all like in different marriages. Like some have been married for a long time. There's a long distance relationship that took place. Like, you know, we have a little bit of everything, I think. So
yeah.
We have a couple more questions before we end. This has been such a good discussion so far.
Yes.
One question that I saw here was, how important is love in a marriage? And then to kind of piggyback off of that, is it true that the love you have for each other changes when you get married?
Let's go, Khalid. That one's yours.
Yeah. I think, love is definitely important. If you don't love the person, I don't think you can kind of, at least personally, I don't think you can live with them? Like, why would you live with someone you don't love?
Like if
That
you're
being said,
compatible, for example, like if you're compatible,
yeah,
like you get along, but maybe there's no love. Like, would you feel like it's
I guess
impossible?
there's also the argument of, and I guess different things work for different people, right? But like, for example, I had a friend that got an arranged marriage, and at the beginning they were like, you know what, no, I can't do this, I don't want to do this, but they got married in the end. And then speaking to them now, this person was like, I said that at the beginning, but now my love for this person grew, and now I do love this person. So I don't know exactly how to answer this question, because there is two sides of the spectrum. But for me personally, I definitely agree that you do need to love the person. And I guess that comes with, if their values and if their characteristics and whatnot align with yours, if they're a beautiful person, I guess a natural inclination would be, you know what, I actually love the way this person is. You know, I love this person. You know, so yeah. And during the marriage, love does change. Like, I think the more you kind of navigate through your relationship, I think your love changes and it becomes, I feel like, deeper. You know, if you're a couple that, you know, does communicate well, does mold well, you know, you do things the right way, and in a general sense you're happy, you know, people do fight. Like, you will fight in your relationship regardless, but you have to know how to, you know, navigate that. You have to, you know, all right, break your pride, break your, you know, your nerves, and okay, you know what, let's work through this. You know, you might get angry, but you need to know how to work through everything. And if you are a couple that does that well, you appreciate everything that you do. I mean, they do for you, and vice versa. And I think with that appreciation, the love grows. You know, you're not feeling well, and you have someone to take care of you. You come home, and you come home to a loving person. You know, and all of those things, I feel, build up, and you know, it manifests.
Coming in with the crazy good answer. Or I don't know how, I was going to say something better than that, because I forgot about the whole arranged marriage thing. Because like, wait, who's getting married out here that's not in love? And I was like, oh wait, there's like a whole half of the world that gets married with literally not even seeing each other sometimes. So okay, so yeah, that's definitely a good perspective to give there. People who don't have love at first, but they build it throughout the relationship. Yeah, so it's definitely
or
a
they
spectrum
don't,
there.
but you know, yeah.
Or they don't, but you know, thankfully in his case, the person did.
His friends.
Or his friend's case, sorry.
Yeah. Do you guys want to answer?
Love is important. It keeps you in the relationship, you know, through the good times and bad. And if there is someone who, or a couple that don't have love between them, like they're just compatible and things like that, I think their interactions are going to differ very differently from people who are in love. The way you say hi to someone, the way you look at them, the way you touch them, the way you care for them, the way you know, maybe give them excuses for maybe you didn't put your dishes away or something that's very trivial like that. But if you love someone, you might go behind them and pick up after them. But if you're just compatible, you might say, oh, we're just roommates, and treat the person that way. And nothing really brings you guys closer. So I think having that love is what binds you. When you're upset at them, you don't escalate it to a point where you're swearing and you do things that you're going to be upset about later because you love this person. You care for their feelings. You care for what they think of you. So that is that one thing that holds you and it grounds you. And it also keeps you. Like, it keeps you from saying, I'm tired of this, I'm exhausted, I'm not really into this marriage thing, and I'm going back to my parents' house.
Said no one ever. Like, who would want to do that?
There's plenty of people that have done that. Plenty of people that in the moment, they will just explode and leave and say, I'm done with this. But then when they're away, whether it's at their parents' place, their friend's place, they remind themselves of how much they love this person, and then they come running back saying sorry.
So would you say love is enough in a marriage then, or in a relationship?
Would I say that's enough? No.
Yeah,
your answer said otherwise. That's why I asked you. Like, you know,
well, no,
you literally just said
no. He said love grounds you, but it's not the only thing.
But he said it also prevents you from, you know, being disrespectful, or like you're caring for someone more because you love them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can love someone but have a terrible character, have terrible like attributes about you, but just because you love each other, the other stuff will come through. So it's a combination.
So it's not enough on its own, but it's also for you and for everyone else who agreed with that, it's necessary in a relationship.
Exactly. Like we were talking about two people that were just compatible, right? So their characters aligned, their sense of humor aligned. They were just good enough. Like they were happy to be with each other in the same room. You know what I mean? And they can tolerate each other, so to speak. But there was no love between them. Eventually, you either grow feelings for this person or you don't. Like you'll get bored of someone eventually. That happens sometimes. And when you love them, then you do something about that. And you say, well, I can't be bored for the rest of my life. I love this person. So let's do something different. Let's like spark up the relationship in some way,
some mountains
shape, or
something. I don't know. Okay, just answer this question.
All right. Okay.
I just wanted to add. Sorry, I'm always jumping in.
No, that's okay.
I felt like I think Sabri, you kind of like, you know, I don't know, corrected what you said before earlier, but yeah. I think I do think love it's important, but I don't think it's essential for a marriage to work. Like, I think for the long term, yes, but I think you really need like rahmat and empathy for the other person and respect. And I think that's the two things that determine whether it's going to work out. And
but isn't that love right there?
I think
not really.
No, I don't think empathy is love, because I think you can have empathy for people you don't necessarily love.
I agree.
I think you can have empathy for lots of people, and if it starts out that way, I think you're right. Like the love can develop, and I guess to be with someone for 20 years or 30 years or 50 years, you will need love to keep you together. But I think for a marriage to work out, I don't think love necessarily needs to be there. Like what some people, like for me, I wanted it. You know, I wanted love to be there before I got married, or like when I got married. But that's not essential for everybody. And even in looking at like older generations, you know, like our grandparents, a lot of them didn't know each other. They didn't meet each other till their wedding day, and, you know, worked out. I know their attitudes are different. There's a lot of cultural shifts and things like that. But there's people in this day and age as well that have lots of successful marriages. And like you said as well, somebody, like just because you love somebody, you can still love somebody and hurt somebody. And I think that's the key point, because, you know, a lot of people love each other but they really hurt each other, and that can damage the relationship. It can be unsuccessful. It's not that love wasn't there. It's that I think that respect wasn't there, and the empathy for the other person wasn't there. So I think that's my take.
I agree with you. I think I just tend to bind all those characteristics you mentioned into the word love.
Yeah. Definitions, yeah.
Yeah, so I agree with that.
See, coming together. Pause and views.
So I mean, we defined it. That's you know, all of those answers. I'd have to agree with that. Here's one last question. This person asked, do I really have to know someone's family before marrying them?
You don't, but I would highly recommend it.
I feel like you should. I feel like that's very, like, at least from someone who's not married yet. I know my perspective here, you know, it doesn't really matter since it's a marriage podcast now. No, but I was saying it's like, I feel like it is a very, even as someone who's not married, I feel like it is a very important thing to know someone else's family, like to know where this person came from, who raised them.
No, not like that.
What?
Like, do you have to know, like, have you, like, you know their family, like, as in, like, have met them and have some sort of relationship with them, I guess.
I feel like maybe the relationship thing is not a big thing, but at least speaking to them and having some type of conversation with the other half of the family is like something that's very important.
Yeah,
I think it's important.
There's two levels to it.
Yeah. Look, even if it's just meeting them and getting to know them, I think it's quite important, like I said, for the reasons that I mentioned earlier as well, that when you grow your family and things like that, because undoubtedly they will be part of your life. They may not, and they should not be involved in your marriage, like, you know what I mean, in terms of decision making and so forth. So it shouldn't be that close, but it's always good to know who your extended family is. Yeah.
I would say don't let your wedding day be the day that you meet the other person's family.
Exactly.
Khalid,
Yeah.
you want to add to this?
Yeah, I guess with the long distance thing,
Yeah,
Khalid
like,
has a little bit of.
It looks different for you, right?
Yeah. So how did that work out for you?
I mean, it's definitely important, but I guess if you're kind of navigating a long distance thing, you should. I don't know. For me, it was like, well, you kind of have to ask those questions. You know, what do you like? What's your family like? What's your family values, and so on and so forth. And then if that kind of works out well for you, then alhamdulillah. But then at the same time, it comes back to, if you're both Harari, for example, what Nabila was saying earlier, then you can also find information about, okay, do they come from a good family? Are they gonna corrupt your kids for the or
Corrupt your kids.
So,
that's what you're worried about, aren't you?
Yeah, no, you guys know what I mean. But so yeah, you just have to ask the questions, I guess, if you're doing long distance, and then when you do finally meet them, I guess you can be a judge.
I think family will always give you benefit of the doubt. So I will say, relationships with them oftentimes can be very surface level. But when there are events in the family, like a baby being born or someone getting sick, those are moments where the family comes together. But I think, like, the way we've been raised, family is so important. We're always doing everything with our family. But there are people out there that aren't that close with their family. So I don't think for them, they don't see it as a big issue, because it's just like, yeah, they're my family. I was raised with them, but I'm starting a life with you. So in that case, it doesn't really matter to that person. But if the other side of that relationship is close with their family, then to them it's like, well, why am I not meeting your mom? Why am I not meeting your dad or your siblings? Like, I value my family, so why don't you? And then that's where you get to find out different things about the other person and what their relationship with their family is like. But I don't think it's the be all end all.
Really?
I don't know what you guys think, because we have a good example. Look at what happened in London, England.
What happened in London, England?
The Queen.
Oh,
Meghan Markle. We're all sitting here like, what are you talking about?
Well, look at them, right? Obviously, Meghan met the Queen. The Queen was like, "Oh, nice to meet you. Hi, how are you? You're marrying my son. I don't really like you, but fine."
Her grandson, but
yeah.
But she didn't explicitly say that.
Yeah.
Her grandson, yes. I don't really know about their lives that much, so.
Yeah.
But look at them, like, they're still together. Despite everything that happened and all the tea that was spilled, they're still together. And they're like, we love each other. We came into this for the right reasons, and he gave up what a lot of people probably wouldn't give up.
I was just gonna say, not a lot of people would pick their family over their girlfriend or spouse sometimes, which is scary.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, but that's
real
sad
man.
for you, though.
That's what?
I said that's a real man. Respect for Harry just went up, after that whole thing. So.
And what were you saying there?
He probably did that for different reasons, right?
What other reason is there besides that he wants to stand by his wife?
I think it's
I don't know.
complicated, like very multifactorial.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like they're always in the spotlight. So I think any move they make, they'll consider that before they make any move. So probably not 100%, but I don't think someone would make a move like that big without at least having some underlying like right intentions. You know, it's kind of a big move.
Yeah,
I think other
sure
things
he
would be
was
factored into it. Yeah,
you know, obviously doing what he did for his wife, but probably deep down inside too, he was like, I'm kind of tired of this life. I don't really agree with all the things that my family does or how we are viewed.
Yeah.
And maybe he just wanted to get out of that. Like, our parents
True.
are our parents, but we don't necessarily agree with everything that they do. There's things that, as kids, when they're raising you and eventually you're more mature to realize what they're doing, you're like, maybe I won't do this when I get older, but I'll let it pass for now.
Well, because it's happening to you.
Like,
What's that?
No, because it's happening to you. That's why, as you're going up.
Well, actually, that's something I do in a lot in my life. Like, especially at work, where you're working with someone and you're just like, wow, I would not have handled the situation in the way this person did. Or I really don't like how they speak to me. And the flip side is, you know, I really appreciate what this person does. They really care for you and stuff like that. And so when you say to yourself, if I'm in their position, that's how I want to act. And this is what I want to avoid, because you remember how you felt in that situation.
Yeah.
And you should be applying the good things out of that, you know, when you navigate the rest of your life. So I do that at work. I do that with my, relationships. So it could have been something that he in that situation said, I don't agree with my mom, like my grandmother and stuff like that. And maybe he just wanted a different life, do things his way for once.
Yeah, because by that point, like, their whole life was scheduled out for them, right? So taking a big step like that, where you're literally just severing that tie, it's a big thing. But I think he did for the good reasons. Definitely a lot of toxicity going on within that family that they kind of got away from, thankfully.
I wonder if anyone like normal people like us, if they were put in that position of like your family doesn't accept your spouse, who do you pick, your family or your spouse? Like that's it's such a tough position to be in, and I can't imagine that. But
yeah, I feel like within our community, I feel like it's very different since we're all kind of raised in a similar fashion. A lot of our parents are somewhat the same. Like, we can kind of all relate to each other because we're all
like
raised
complacent.
similar.
They're like,
yeah,
right,
exactly. So we don't really deal with a lot of issues like that. Maybe there's like small cases here and there.
Yeah.
But generally, at least within our community, the Harari community, we don't have to worry about those kind of things. It's only when you start working with like.
I think it's.
I don't know. I think it happens.
Yeah,
it does exist, and I think it
sure.
does happen, and I think it's even harder being in a small community because at least like if let's say your spouse is from a totally different community, like you could not cut ties, but let's say you don't get along with them, and you guys both decide to like remove yourself from the situation. You're not constant. There isn't like your whole life isn't attached to their family. You know what I mean? Or your community is not attached to their family. But we're so intricately tied that I think like when there is this situation, it's kind of a ripple effect where the dynamics become very complicated, because then like, their families, like your cousin's married into their family, and then you have a family thing where your cousin's invited. It just gets so complicated. And I think that it can be even trickier in our community when these kind of things come up.
Yeah, I think so too.
I've been
we're all connected.
I've been sheltered from all of that I guess I haven't seen that. So,
Must be nice.
Exactly.
I'd say for the most part, like, alhamdulillah, we're pretty good, but like,
yeah,
I think like definitely there are cases.
Our community is so small that sometimes you could get married to someone and not know that they're cousins with someone you don't like,
or they're cousins with you.
Oh no.
Yeah, that can happen too, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's maybe a question you should probably ask, like, so what's your lineage? Who's your great grandfather?
But if you weren't raised with this person and you don't really know them,
oh, so you'd marry your cousin?
Yeah.
Like,
well, that's our last question. Would you marry your cousin first?
Because it's the Cousins podcast.
Yeah.
Is that why?
It's the cousin connection.
We'll work by degree. First, second, third.
I don't think anyone would marry their first cousin.
Are you allowed to marry your first cousin?
It's disliked.
Islamically, yes.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
You can. It's disliked.
Well, I don't know that rule because it's not like something that's ever do.
You sit there considering like.
I think for us, like first cousin is like brother, sister. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like I think it's a bit too close to home.
Mm-hmm.
Even second.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
It's still like second feels like first.
Yeah.
You know.
So we're working with third degree here.
I think third plus, like if you're not raised as cousins and you didn't know you were cousins, let's say you lived in different countries, you didn't know you were cousins, and then like I think third plus is fine if you didn't know you were cousins. Like if you're third and you identify as like ahli, like your relatives, that's weird. But for me, but if you don't identify as cousins, then it's all good.
My first question would be like, what's your dad's name? What's your mom's name? And then go straight to my parents and be like, hey, do you know this person? And they'll be like, oh yeah, that's your, your cousin from like, we didn't see them like 50 years, they're here and there. Once you hear that, oh yeah, it's like, okay, I guess we can't talk anymore. I'm sorry.
You cousin zone her, Miss Keen.
I have a question. If people aren't going to get married to their cousins, and they're not going to get married to their friends, and they're not going to get married to their friends' friends because, they were raised together or whatnot, who are you guys going to marry? Is the question.
Girl, we don't know.
It's all going to be long distance relationships.
Both cousins are going to look good then.
Oh my God.
Imagine that. They'll start marrying their first cousins.
Okay, are we done with the questions?
Yes, I just want to say, like, thank you guys so much for doing this. That was such a great discussion. I feel like I've learned a lot. I've taken some mental notes, and I know Amir will when he's editing the podcast.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you guys have any
closing remarks?
Yeah, closing remarks. Anything you want to add? If you want to shout your Instagram pages out, because we do it every single week. So.
Yeah, exactly.
What's that? Don't be scared.
Don't be scared. Yeah, if you guys feel something for someone, go for it. Shoot your shot. If it's uncomfortable, it's fine. Someone once said to me, if you're comfortable in life, that means you're not progressing, which means there's something wrong. So whether it's relationships, whether it's your job, whatever it is, if you're uncomfortable, that means you're probably doing something right, because you're progressing, you're moving on. Get amongst it, don't be scared, and just, if it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, that's all life is.
Dive into those DMs.
Yeah, Amir.
Anything else, girls? Nope. Okay, Sabri, not playing.
No, wait, no.
Sorry, Nabila had something. No, I was just gonna say, marriage is not what the social media. I want to tell everyone who's watches, Scott and everybody else, all these married couples and couple goals and all that stuff. That's not all real. It's not always like that. So people need to sort of like switch away from that and thinking, and then I always see those little comments, if it's not like that, I don't want it, and things like that. Remember, these are just reels of people's lives. Like, I feel like that needs to be like just drilled into people's minds. Stay off the Insta. Don't be looking at all the baddies and thinking, I want a baddie wife, because you're not going to get a baddie wife. Get a good girl. You know what I mean? Like, just go and talk to people, and the girls as well. Don't be like sitting there and, hoping that, I'm not going to use that word, Khalid. I know you're waiting for me to say that. Don't be too like shallow and try to wait for the, keep your standards, but just be open-minded. Don't shut people down. If people come and approach you, don't shut them down. Talk to people and see how it goes. Don't shut things down immediately. Be open-minded, have standards, be proud, do your life. And but definitely don't be looking at all those couple goals and sort of sitting waiting for that kind of stuff.
Solid advice. It's my mom on the side.
And I think on the same note, like Nabila, I think you basically already said this, but marriage is really hard, and I think people always tell you like the first year is hard, but it's ongoing. It's an ongoing challenge, and I think it is rewarding, and there's lots of great things about it. But it's a lot of work, and I think I think we come from a generation of kind of instant gratification. Like, we want everything to just be, good all the time, and we have everything at our fingertips. We never want to put in effort, and I think that really reflects on our expectations in marriage, that we don't really want to put in the work, but we want the rewards, and it's not going to work like that. So just be prepared. I mean, it's not, it's great, like, it's good, but you're going to have to put in some work, and it's not going to always look like Nabila said, like, you know, the way it does on Instagram or, you know, on social media.
And it's seasons. It's always seasons. You're going to have moments of where you really love the person, and then, you know, next month you might really hate them, but like, you know what I mean? Like on a level where it's like, oh gosh, you're on my nerves sort of thing. That's going to happen. You're not always going to be in that state of just like, you're in undeniable, like, bliss, love.
Right.
You know, seasons, and, you know, there's pressures that come in that you're going to have to withstand. You know, there could be finance issues, or like you might be solid, and then, you know, maybe someone might lose their job. Like, you need to be able to support one another. It's not always going to be just amazing and just bliss. That's what people usually expect, I feel like. So you got to be open-minded. You got to love the person, but know that you're not going to be like just in love, and don't look for like movie sort of like expectations. Be realistic and just be open-minded and be mature and respectful. And yeah, so there's a lot of aspects to it.
That's solid advice.
Yeah. Sabri, you got anything close off on? Or did they cover everything for you there?
He was like violently nodding away. He was like,
oh, he kind of stole your...
Khaled stole my thunder, because I think a lot of the root of some of these questions are coming from a place of fear. Like, people are scared to take that step. They're scared to figure out the answers to their what ifs. So just go for it. There's, you know, life is short. Just be confident and just do you. Like, don't worry about what other people are gonna say, what the group chat's gonna say. All that stuff doesn't matter. Because when you find that person, you won't even be thinking of those things. Like, it just goes away.
Yeah.
You know? But I will say, to Nabila's point about Instagram, and also to what you guys said about, are you your type's type? Well, if you want to be with a baddie, are you a baddie's type? You better be a baddie too. You know? So, like, yeah, you got to keep it real. And I think the other point of what she was saying about, like, it being a highlight reel, well, that definitely is the case. Because if everyone who is married had those, I guess, lovey-dovey days every single day, then they'd be posting that every single day. But really, they post it like maybe once every 2 weeks, maybe once every other day. You know what I mean? It's not 24 hours a day like that. So I'll just say that. And I think people just need to keep it realistic. We all know what we see in movies isn't really real life, because it just isn't. Yeah. But I think to wrap this up, what can we say, guys?
Shout out your Instagrams.
My Instagram is Sara's brother.
You're such a loser.
Do you guys want to shout out your Instagrams in the air? If not, we can close this out and we should be good to go.
Wait. What? No, we have to shout out Nabila's. I'm gonna shout it out for you.
Okay, go ahead.
Your brand. If anyone doesn't know Nabila, she has like a modest wear hijab brand. It's Amal Label, spelled AMAAL .label. LAB.
Yeah.
Oh my God, how do you spell label?
LABEL.
That's it. You're doing a good job, Sarah.
We will leave it in the description of this podcast, and then we'll also like post it on Instagram. But I just wanted to take the time to thank everyone for listening. I hope you all took something from this episode, and I just want to thank all of you guys for joining us and taking some time out of your day to share your wisdom and your experiences. May Allah continue to bless your marriages, grant you a long and healthy life with your families, your future children, current children.
Ameen.
And maybe one day when Amir and I eventually find our respective partners, we will look back on this and say, you know what, I applied that advice that they told me that one time.
Definitely. We're re-listening to this. Well, I have no choice after editing it, but yeah. So should I close it out?
Yeah.
Wait. I will say,
go ahead.
Everything that we have said today is our lived experiences. They're not like the perfect answers. They're not right or wrong. It's our lived experiences. And I think for anyone that's here listening and you're in the thick of things in a relationship yourself, or you want to be in a relationship, I think you should just take these points and use them as like, this is what other people did in this situation. How can I navigate it myself and do what's right in my situation? Because it's not all the same.
Yeah.
So I just
take
wanted
your
to
bits
put that
and
out
pieces
there
from it, basically.
Yeah.
Like take your bits and pieces from this information and apply it to yourself, essentially. Like
exactly, yeah, because you know, everyone's life and everyone's situation is completely different. But there are some similarities in it, and there are certain ways you can react to a situation that can help it.
Yeah.
So that's all I think anyone that's listening out there should take away from this, and not say that, oh, Khalid said this, so that's exactly what I'm going to do, and it's going to work.
Exactly.
So
exactly, like, you know, there's no way there's no way you'd be I've only been married for 3 years, you know, like there's no way I'm an expert or anything, but it's just about learning from each other's experiences, you know. So someone's been through something, you know, maybe you can learn from it rather than going through it yourself, or maybe you could just apply that to your situation. Yeah.
Okay. So I'll edit on that. Again, I know this is a long podcast, but hopefully you made it all the way to the end. Thank you for listening. This has been the Cousin Connection podcast. You can follow us on Instagram at Cousin Connection Pod. My name's Amir.
My name is Sara.
Should we just, go down the line?
We're just going to do all the names today.
My name is Sabri.
My name is Khalid.
My name's Hidayah.
And my name's Nabila.
And we out. Bye.
You're going to do that.